I'm in trouble.
I'm in danger.
Hello friends and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise, swearsies, it's just a fact. And it's totally science. Go ahead and look it up. Today we're diving into r/NeckbeardStories. Hooray! This author made a legbeard story the last time around. It was the tale of Feminancy, which was a legbeard college professor. And this time we got a neckbeard college professor. So I don't know what's going on with this college hiring beards of all sorts and shapes and sizes, but I guess all the better for us to sit back and enjoy the cringe. This one sounds like it's going to get exceptionally spicy, all things considered, and I definitely do thank you, Frecklehead451, for the story. He's also got a series which I have yet to get into, but I mean, the channel's opening up just a little bit, and I do like the writing style, so we will see what we can do as far as that series goes. But first things first, okay? We gotta get some plugs and disclaimers out of the way, and then we will dive right into some Neckbeard Stories cringe. When your 60-year-old English neckbeard professor starts throwing things because he doesn't like women disagreeing with him. Did he go, "Ree"? What's up, everybody? It's me, Frecklehead451. You might remember me from the Feminancy legbeard story, which is linked in the description. I figured that if I told that story, I might as well tell the story about the English professor who threw a tantrum over me disagreeing with him. People seem to enjoy the Feminancy story anyway, so here we go. Apologies for the lengthy post in advance. I love them beefy posts. I can't get enough. Keep delivering the beefy posts to me. The cast. OP. That's me. If you read the Feminancy post and the Mythbeard posts, you've met me. But if not, yeah, nice to meet you. It was late 2019, early 2020 at the time, so I was on the very cusp of turning 19 at the start of this story. I'm female, which I'm mentioning mainly because it's relevant later, but also because I found people on the web tend to mistake me for a dude. And I think I made that presumption during the Feminancy story as well. I have red hair, I'm a bit on the wider side, at least at that point in time, and I'm also very adverse to confrontation. Whether that's a product of my Midwestern American upbringing or just me in general, I really have no idea. Regardless, that's the main reason that I don't report half of the stuff that happens in these stories. I'm a big fan of starting that paper trail, but you know, you do you, I do suppose. I also understand aversion to conflict. We have seen many OPs of this stripe, I do think. Mom, that's my mom. Again, best mom in the world, giver of advice. She's normally very level-headed, but can get ticked off real easy if something happens to me. Never went to college, but as I told her once, she has well earned her EXP degree. For some context, we often say that girls who go to college to find a man are getting their MRS degree, so that's why I make that joke. EXP, experience, versus Mrs. Don't go to college to find a man. What are you doing? Putting yourself into debt. You could just go hang out on the campus. Dad is my dad, a grizzled farmer who, well, not always the most emotionally available, nonetheless has nothing but affection for me and my mom. He has no tolerance for bullshit, and after these events, little respect for college degrees and those who hold them. Ginsberg, not his real name, but an appropriate pseudonym. This is our main antagonist, the English/film appreciation professor that I took 2 classes from during the time frame of late 2019 to early 2020. 2 classes and she was out. I guess I can't blame you for that. If you don't vibe, you don't vibe. Mr. A, my academic advisor, has a penchant for recommending me classes based on his personal friendships with the professors. He factors a little more directly into this story than the Mythbeard one. Dr. Hagrid, my poetry professor. He's not exactly central to the story, but he does voice some concern for me later on, so I kind of want to give him a shout out here, since he's a good dude. As Hagrids are wont to be. So, be me. about to turn 19, starting another semester of college, and being super excited because I'm taking some of my favorite subjects, English literature and poetry. I'm not the best at mathematics and science subjects, but I love writing, so it was no surprise that I was going for an English major. It seemed like your typical literature class, going over short stories and poetry from the early 1800s to the late 1900s. We were reading stuff like As I Lay Dying and The Great Gatsby, still one of my favorite books despite its association with this class, as well as various short stories. The Great Gatsby was around long before this class. It'll be around long after this class. So don't let that association ruin it for you. It's a classic. There were about 14 of us in the class, give or take, the majority of which were women, like myself, of various age groups. As per usual, I was one of the youngest, if not the youngest, in class. Nothing remarkable about most of us. We all looked pretty normal, considering it was a somewhat cheap community college. Racially diverse, some tattoos and piercings, you name it, we probably had it. Our professor, we'll call him Ginsberg. I call him this because he talked about Allen Ginsberg so much, you'd think that he wanted to suck his dick. Pardon my French. He's around 60, full gray, clean-shaven, and over 6 feet tall, with a beautifully rounded gut that was always covered in a 3-piece suit. He looked like one of those roly-poly dolls, the one you try to push over but they always pop back up. Weeaboo wobbles, right? You try to knock them over but they won't fall down or something? I know what you're talking about. Yeah, one of those, but with legs. He loved classic American literature and talking about it in a voice that sounded chillingly like a cross between Mike Pence and ReddX's John Travolta whoa voice. How do you even cross those two up? If he talks, I'm just gonna give him the Neckbeard voice. Keep it simple, you know. Like most of these stories go, the neckbeard tendencies of my professor did not rear their ugly head until slightly later into the semester. I was actually enjoying myself, talking about the literary masterpieces I enjoyed with other people that enjoyed them. However, the problem started after we read a story that I can't remember the name of. I will briefly describe the plot here, and if anyone knows the name of it, please drop it in the comments. Basically, the story is about this dude, I think his name's William or something, who just recently got married. However, his wife has been married and divorced 2 other times, and has a kid by the first husband. Worse, the current husband discovers that one of the exes is one of his business associates, and the other ex has started coming around with demands to be involved in the child's life, which maybe William doesn't like. The story is just mainly him trying to decide if he still loves his wife. Don't know what it is, given that synopsis, probably wouldn't be interested in it if I passed by it at one point. But despite having not read it, I'll give an answer to the question. Let the past be the past, William, okay? Does your wife love you in the here and now? End of story. Anyways, most of the females in the class showed sympathy and understanding towards the wife in the story. The story was taking place around Victorian times or so, very proper, so divorce proceedings and the rights of women in general were not as prolific as they are today. Most of us said things like, the husband should have been more understanding towards his wife. There could have been serious reasons why she divorced the 2 guys. We mainly lasered in on the fact that the first husband was a bit of a deadbeat. Probably. Well, Ginsberg wasn't very fond of this, so he changed the subject as quickly as possible. Over the next few months, we had similar incidents to this, to the point where I brought it up to my advisor, Mr. A. Oh boy. At first glance, it doesn't seem like a big enough deal to bring to an advisor, but yeah, if you're shutting down conversations in a learning space, that's like the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing at your teaching job, isn't it, Mr. Ginsberg? But despite OP bringing it up, strangely enough, Mr. A refused to do anything about it. He told me that I was overreacting, and that Ginsberg was a highly acclaimed professor, and that I had no business making such accusations about him. And that was when I started having suspicions. Mr. A had mentioned that he wasn't a family man. And Ginsburg had mentioned that
He had a boyfriend in the advising department.
yep, 1 + 1 is 2. Seriously, he mentioned the fact that he's a raging homosexual in every single class. So you probably weren't joking about him literally wanting to blow Allen Ginsberg. You can't make it up, man. Since I had never met any of the other advisors, I just assumed it was one of them that I had never met. However, during my meeting with him, Mr. A had to briefly step outside of his office to confer with another student who had gotten the time of her appointment mixed up and was there too early, so I was alone in his office, and his phone went off on his desk. Now, like many phones do, it lit up, showing the lock screen and the pop-up of the message, a text if I remember correctly, and the lock screen was indeed a photo of Mr. A and Ginsburg, my literature professor. The roly-poly doesn't like Twizzoli professor himself. Yeah, that's why they call him the nutty professor, right? Lord, I apologize. And yeah, they had their arms around each other. Fuck. Covering up. Doesn't matter how much dirt you dig, because this guy's gonna be there to cover it up. I didn't have much time to process this new piece of data, as Mr. A returned at that moment, and we resumed discussing the next semester's plans. It came back later, during my poetry class though, and I kinda spaced out a bit, because the old noodle wasn't exactly coming to terms with this new layer of college court intrigue. Apparently, I was acting so out of it that my poetry professor, Mr. Hagrid, actually pulled me aside after class to ask if I was okay. Let me tell you about Dr. Hagrid. This man is a saint and definitely deserves some accolades. Picture the love child of Rubeus Hagrid and Carl Heisenberg from the Resident Evil village, with a soft voice and sheer love for poetry in any form. That is Dr. Hagrid. He loved poetry for poetry's sake, and believed in pushing the boundaries of creativity. One of his favorite groups of poets was the Beat Generation, ironically, which somewhat contributed to my final and favorite poem project of the semester, a piece about Beatnik Lucian Carr. I owe the inspiration for that one half to Dr. Hagrid, and one half to me watching Kill Your Darlings the previous night and being stuck in them feels. Damn Dane DeHaan and his pretty face. I only know him from Spider-Man because I'm kind of a lowbrow fella. I didn't get a college degree. What do you want? That poetry class was one of the best classes that I've ever taken, with one of our assignments being to write to the poet laureate of our state, who happened to be a personal friend of Dr. Hagrid, and was doing this out of the goodness of his heart, regarding some of the work that we'd been reading. As a side note, the last English class that I took at my current school, much better school, by the by, well, that's a low bar, required us to write to a famous author for an interview, and I picked that same poet, Mr. Indiana. I figured he wouldn't remember me from over 2 years ago at that point, but he did. Not only that, he remembered me very fondly, and said that he hoped I was doing well in my academic pursuits. So yeah, kind of a boost for me. I think you'd be surprised at how much these big people remember the little people, especially if the little people have, left an impact of some sort. 2 years? That ain't that long. I can remember the names of supporters from my old YouTube channel from like 5 or 6 years ago. Because truly, those are the people that matter. You know what I mean? Those are the people that push you to new heights, at least in my view. At any rate, Dr. Hagrid asked me if I was okay, as I was surprisingly quiet. I told him I was fine and just dealing with some crud in other classes, and he said if I needed anything, just to let him know. I don't usually refer to many people as secondary parental figures, but I could make an exception for that man. Well, he's definitely the exception to the rule at this college. Dr. Hagrid, you are a rose among thorns. To put it in the most poetic terms that this layman can. The climax of the Ginsburg situation arrived about 3 weeks before the end of the semester. In a departure from my usual conduct in these classes, I had voiced my opinion about a point in one of our stories. I can't remember which story, nor exactly what I said, but I can remember that Ginsburg did not like it. In fact, he was angry enough about it that he told me to stay after class. Oh, shit. I'm in trouble. At least we do know he's, how did OP put it? A flaming homosexual. So we don't need to worry about that part, but it's probably going to get ugly. So the end of class rolls around, and I stay after class to endure a 10-minute, spittle-soaked lecture from Ginsburg on how
I wasn't respecting his authority and that women should not be allowed to attend college. Yada yada, misogyny, yada yada. This is why I only date men, yada yada. Women are stupid.
Oh boy. I'm not even sure how to comment that, man. This is just a whole load of stupid you dropped on me. I don't think it's even worth sorting through. After he had finished, I told him that I appreciated his concern and to have a nice day. Oh, OP is such a class act, man. Kill him with kindness for real. Be polite in everything, I grew up being told. Nobody told me that. Even if someone is being an asshole, there's really no reason to be an asshole back, because you'll be the one with the problem at that point. As I turned to go and reach for the door, he screeched something about,
"And don't mock me!"
And then I felt something whiz past my head, grazing me along the way before crashing to the floor. It was a stapler. This man just threw a fucking stapler at me with the intention of hitting me. I was so stunned, I just left. On the way to my next class, I considered my options. Dean of Students' office? No, they told me they wouldn't consider my complaint seriously. Campus police? The classroom door was closed, window blocked out, no one could see in, so it was my word against the word of an
esteemed professor.
Tell my mom? Well, probably would be the best option, but wait till you get home, because she will go in there and hunt him down if she is close enough to campus. I can afford to wait because one of our neighbors was picking me up that day due to my parents having doctor's appointments. Well, I did indeed tell my mom when I got home, and true to expectation, she was pissed. And so was my dad when he came home from doing chores that evening. Now usually, my dad is not a confrontational guy, except when someone really disrespects his family, property, or livelihood. I've only seen or heard my dad being truly angry 3 or 4 times, but he was pissed this time. I do think that's a good way to go about it. Keep your anger in reserve, because then the few times that you do yell, people are going to take that shit real serious. Now, some of you reading this might be thinking, well, why didn't you report it, Frecklehead? And to you, present-day Frecklehead says, yeah, you're absolutely correct. I should have reported it. But at the time, I had seen the futility of reporting anything to that system, as nothing was ever done about the behavior that I'd endured earlier. See the Mythbeard post for context on that. And so we shall. There's also mentions of it in the Feminancy saga. Overall, this college seems like just an absolute dumpster fire, and I am sorry that this had to be your introduction to college life, but definitely glad that you got out of it eventually. So I kept quiet about it, at least until now, where I have put it on the internet for all to see. If anyone from my days at that particular college happens to see it, you know who you are. You know the crimes of which I speak, and may the guilt lie on your shoulders until such a time as you admit to your own shortcomings. Very true. The only person that really is truly stuck with Ginsburg for the rest of his life is Ginsburg, so he's got to live with himself. Everybody else will eventually, mercifully, move on. I don't necessarily hold grudges against anybody that I talk about in these posts, don't get me wrong. On the contrary, I have forgiven all of them. That doesn't mean that I don't think what they did was wrong. I've just chosen to let it go and not let it affect me so much. Writing about them here is one way of dealing with that, though I've also made other steps towards recovery, such as going to therapy. It helps people. Therapy helps. Definitely. 100%. Whether you think you're in need of therapy or not, therapy can help you. As long as you find the right therapist, that is. Which is just a whole other journey all on its own, but I do wish you luck with it. There's no shame in therapy, as I've said many times before. In case you're wondering, I'm thankfully at a much better school now. I've had some incidents there that are worthy of this subreddit, but where the social aspect is concerned, I've met some great people and found a major I really love and can see myself doing as a long-term career. What a sad, poisonous, little tiny person to go as far as treating the students that you're supposed to be teaching like they're less than you. Whether that's based on gender or anything else, that is 100% wrong. You are there to teach them. That is your job, not to mock them, tell them they don't belong at college. Also, this is why I only date men. Okay, we get it. You're gay, all right? Jesus, put a fucking lid on it. But yeah, dude obviously has a lot of pent-up rage. I think part of this was because Mr. A had told him that OP went to him and tried to report Ginsburg, but I think the other larger part is just Ginsburg's dissatisfaction with his own life. You know what I mean? An impotent college professor, getting on in years, having accomplished nothing really. What mark will he leave on this world? None at all. He'll die and everyone will forget about him. Which is why I said, he can't really touch the Great Gatsby. If I get to age 60 and I'm unsatisfied with myself enough to throw a stapler at a student that I'm supposed to be teaching, bro, I'll put a bullet in myself. That is pathetic. Now, I am glad that OP didn't get hit with the stapler, but the other side of me is like, maybe if you did get hit with the stapler, then you'd have some evidence for the police. You know what I mean? But you did get out of the situation, so I suppose all's well that ends well. And as I said, the only person that he really has to live with is himself. And he doesn't seem to be doing well with that. And I take some solace in that fact. I do hope that you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, I hope you'll like, comment, and or subscribe. Maybe share it around if you should like. Check out them links in the description, all kinds of stuff, you know, plugs, and my social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, whatever, and my gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful, generous patrons. I'd like to thank them as I do every video, but especially Calvicus, Fatboy Shrimp, Robert Waits, TSM Kirby, USMC8932, Aaron W, Twisted Child, Delicious Jelly Donut, Candy Sora, Fire Drake, Livison, Mr. Anime Manga Fan, Silent Revolver, Zero MMX, Magdalene Marshall Thornrose, Little Lone Wolf, Mel Pascal, Rouse Tower, Babsy-kun, Caustic Fox, Disposable Waifu, Aaron Lennox, Fisher Diggy, High Pat Japan, OG James Cook, JM Kun, Jerry, John Hero, KK, Miss Monday, Melgar the Destroyer, Mirthful Baker, Mr. J, my boy Now and Nick, Lady Nix, Origami Steve, Kittykins and Elizabeth, Sidestep, Cider Drinker, Serrated Ash, Siegfried, Synaptic Boomstick, Brilliant Tamago, Tato Ferret, Teddy the Police, 10-Ton Monster, That Duck and Bug, Fusky, Treeberg, Wilmax, Redwind, Goose Says Honk, Leon Embers, Naga Viper, John Indoors, A Normal Joe, A Roxers, Cake Jerry, that's a different Jerry, a pimp named J Crisp, KJW, Kajow, Crafty Kitty Cat, Mark 211, maybe next time, Milkfed Gimp, Miss Duchess, Orgamic Cam, Princess Rosalie, Ghosty, Raptor Art, Ellie, The Last Shinobi, and the Maestro himself, Zuka Cervantes. Thank you guys so very much for supporting me in the way that you do. I can't express with words just how much it means, but I hope that after making 5,000 videos shouting you out, that you might ascertain an inkling of my feelings for you. God damn, I'm getting poetic too. This guy's rubbing off on me. Obviously, I do hope some other people out there will sign up, but if you can't do it right now, don't sweat it too hard, man. I just appreciate you coming on through, hanging out with me, and I hope that you come on back and hang out with me again tomorrow, because really,
the views is how my beard stays buttered.
In order to do so, you need to keep yourself safe out there, wash your hands, but also take some time out and do something that you personally enjoy today. Maybe watching some more ReddX videos, if you want. Always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, and you definitely deserve it. I shall see you in the next one, and until then, bye-bye.